So our next speaker, goodness, oh my Lord. You know, I met this guy somehow, and you know how you meet somebody and you're talking on the phone and you feel like, oh, you're old friends. It's the same pattern with everybody. It felt like an old friend. You know, it's just great. It's just awesome, and you need to hear him. He's an awesome speaker, and he's going to pour something into your heart that is life changing, I'm sure. So let's listen to Chris Rickstrew. I'm not going to talk anymore. Just take it with you. Take it.
All right. Thank you. So what I want to talk about is kind of my life journey, because it's been a crazy one. So I just spent the last 3 years of my life living in Thailand, Bali, and Nepal. And the reason why I did that is because when I was 27 years old, I got to where I thought I wanted to be in life, and it absolutely sucked. So on paper, I was living the dream. I was 27. I had just built and sold my first company. I was the CEO of my second company. I just raised $500,000 from investors. I had 25 people working for me. And on top of that, I was dating the girl that I thought I was going to marry. So on paper, I was living the dream. But on the inside, it felt more like a nightmare because I was completely unhappy and unfulfilled. And that is one of the most frustrating feelings in the world. And if you've ever felt that, you know how hard it is, where you work so hard to get something and you finally get it just to realize that it doesn't make you happy. And if you haven't felt that yet, especially for all the youth out there, let me give you an example of what it would feel like. Imagine you spend your entire life climbing a single mountain. You're climbing it, all the bumps and scratches and scrapes, and you fall down, you get up, and then you finally get to the top just to realize that you climbed the wrong one. You spent your entire life climbing one mountain, and you got to the top and realized you climbed the wrong one. You actually meant to climb that one over there. Well, that's the feeling I have, and it's absolutely heartbreaking to spend your whole life trying to get somewhere where you think it will make you happy just to realize that it doesn't. And so that rocked me to my core. But the great thing is I learned something amazing. I learned that I had gotten there because I had spent my entire life listening to my head rather than my heart. I had spent my entire life chasing money rather than happiness. And I had spent my entire life chasing someone else's dream. And that really got to me because I sacrificed so much: relationships, health, everything. I sacrificed everything to get to where society told me I should be. Then I'll be happy. When you have the success and the status and the car and the girlfriend and all these different things, then you'll be happy. Well, that is total BS. And I realized that. And so that was what I call my quarter life crisis, because I was only 27. Thank God I realized it when I was that young. But in that moment, I made a promise to myself that for the rest of my life, I'm going to start listening to my heart, because I'd spent my whole life listening to my head and it got me nowhere except to a place of unhappiness and unfulfillment. So I started following my heart. That led to me giving away all of my stuff, downsizing my company, and I bought a one-way ticket to Nepal. My plan in my head was to be gone for 3 months. The plan in my heart was I was actually gone for 3 years. So I lived in the Himalayas of Nepal at a yoga and meditation retreat. I traveled through Myanmar. I lived in Thailand. I lived with monks. I worked at an elephant sanctuary. I went to Bali, and something so incredible happened when I was in Bali. I finally had the courage, by listening to my heart, to start my coaching business. And in my first 8 weeks of coaching, I coached 100 people one-on-one. 100 people one-on-one. And I realized something amazing, that everyone on this planet is fighting the same exact battle that I was. The battle between our head and our heart, or what I started calling your inner sheep and your inner lion. And so your inner sheep, this is the version of you that holds you back in life. It makes excuses. It comes from a place of fear, and it stops you from actually being the person that you were born to be and living the life that you were born to live. And then there's your inner lion. This is your heart. This is your greatest self. This is your soul. This is your inner badass. This is the version of you that pushes you to face your fears and take action and go after the life of your dreams. Your sheep, this is not who you are. This is who you were trained to be. Your lion, this is who you were actually born to be. Now, there's something really important between these two. They're constantly battling to control one thing, and that's your choices. Because every single choice you make determines your destiny. Because the life that you are all living right here, right now, as you sit and watch this, is just the sum total of every single choice you've made since the day you were born. And your future in a year from now, 6 months from now, 10 years from now, is going to be the sum total of every single choice you make from this moment forward. So your choices are the most important thing that you control as a human being. But these two, they're constantly fighting over who's controlling the choices. The problem for most of us is that our sheep controls most of our choices. And every time you make a choice, you're either feeding your sheep or you're feeding your lion. And for most of us, we feed our sheep way too much. Our sheep walks in, it looks like it's on steroids. You know, it's got this six pack. It looks like the freaking Terminator. It's like, I'll be back. And then we have our inner lion who's over here. It's so weak and starving to death, it can't even roar. It's like, meow. So they're constantly battling. And for most of us, our lion loses because we grow up in a world and a society where we are taught to do the smart thing, do what's logical, do what makes sense. And that's why so many people are so unhappy and so unfulfilled, because they're living an inauthentic life based on what everyone told them they should be doing versus what they actually want to do. And so the real question is, how do we start feeding our lion again? How do we start making choices in alignment with our greatest self, our truest self, our soul, our highest self, whatever you want to call it? It's very, very simple. Whenever you go to make a decision, just ask yourself, what would my lion do? Your alarm clock goes off in the morning. What would my lion do? Someone cuts you off in traffic. What would my lion do? You want to start a business. What would my lion do? You want to ask that girl out on a date. What would my lion do? See, the more you ask yourself this question, the more your life is going to change. And I know that for a fact because I've literally asked myself this question thousands and thousands of times over the last 3 years. And it's completely changed my life. Because remember, 3 years ago, I was a miserable, unhappy, unfulfilled sheep. Today, I'm a very happy, very fulfilled, extremely powerful lion. You know, over the last 3 years, I've found my purpose in life. I've coached thousands of people. I've traveled around the world, and I've found the true love of my life, which is absolutely amazing. And one of the best parts about this whole thing, my ultimate dream is to stand on stage and inspire people to be great. And that's exactly what I'm doing right here, right now at this conference. And so the moral of the story is this: listen to your inner lion, listen to your heart, listen to your soul. This is your inner GPS. This is your true guidance system. It's not what everyone else says. It's not what everyone else does. It's not what everyone else thinks. It's what you know in your heart. Because when you do that, it will lead you to the true life of your dreams. And my life is complete and total proof of that. And so I had to escape that mediocrity. I had to escape, you know, my mind and start listening to my heart. And it's terrifying. You know, when you follow your heart, people are going to say you're crazy. What's wrong with you? But that's where you get to make a choice, because the most important choice you will ever make in your entire life is who you're going to be: mediocre or great, a sheep or a lion. And the more you choose this, the more your life is going to change, the more fulfilled you're going to be, and the more happy you're going to be. So I want to do something really quickly to help all of you, because the ultimate question is, what would my lion do? You go to make a decision. What would my lion do? What would my lion do? So what I want you all to do really quickly is I want you to think back to a time when you were being your inner lion, where this version of you was running the show. You were kicking butt and taking names, and you felt super inspired and empowered and connected to who you were. Think of one memory, and I want you to describe that version of you in 3 words. I want you to write down in 3 words, how would you describe that person? That means you all have to get pens and paper, stare at the screen. This will be life-changing. I guarantee you it will be life-changing, because you're always one choice away from a completely different future. So those of you who are choosing to grab the pen and paper, you are literally living into a completely different future. And so I want you to think back to that moment, and I want you to describe that greatest version of you in 3 words. For me, it's courageous, confident, and fun. That's why I stick a sheep to my forehead and don't care, because it's courageous, it's confident, and it's fun. That's just who I am. And so when you go to ask yourself this question, when you go to make a decision, what would my lion do? Now you have a point of reference. There we go, Janet. Bold, confident, energized. Heck yes. Perfect. So when you go to make a decision, you ask yourself this question: what would my lion do? I can ask myself, what would I do if I was being confident, courageous, and fun? And I know the answer instantly. And then all I have to do is take action, because every action you take in alignment with your greatest self, you take one step closer to your destiny. And so that's what I've learned over these years of going from sheep to lion, is that we all have this destiny. We all have this person that we're born to be, a life that we're born to live, work that we're meant to do, and a difference that we're actually meant to make in this world. But the only way you can align with that and have true happiness and fulfillment is by following your inner lion and listening to your inner heart. So, and the thing is, the only way you change your life is one choice at a time. What would my lion do? You take action in alignment with your lion, you have a completely different future that you've just created. So, WWLD, what would my lion do?
Yay, yay, Chris. Thank you so much for wrapping this up. Nobody's going to forget that. What would my lion do?
You know what? I have these, so I made these bracelets because everyone, after I did a talk about this, they were like, do you have the bracelets? Like, you know how there used to be WWJD bracelets? What would Jesus do? Well, this is WWLD. What would my lion do? And so I have black and white ones. I'll send a bunch of these to Toyin. And if anyone wants them, any of the youth, any of the parents, you want them to remind you, she can send them to you completely free, just so you can stay in that mindset of what would my lion do? What would my lion do? Because that's the most important question you'll ever ask yourself.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Chris. Very life-changing, and it's so simple. And that's what we're about, as in making those things that you can apply very easily. I can easily say, I wake up in the morning, I want to make a decision. What would my lion do? And you know what? It's so easy. You can do it. And he just gave us a prize, and he's so giving. He's so giving too. He's just give us something to give away as well.